Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Sarah Griffiths, Rob H, Ben White, Maximum Gravy, Austin Whitsitt, John Kays, Tommy Swagnuts, Michael Kahn, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Troy Shuker, Bose Nail, Samson, Maris, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, theflatearthchannel.com, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Talking stupid nonsense. I only really, to be honest with you, I only used the mod power a couple of times. One time Nathan got upset with me because I timed somebody out when he was in the middle of the debate. So I'm really leery about using it. Some of the things they were saying, I mean, that's all they got. So I had to time a few people out. And I think by accident, instead of hitting a timeout, I think I hit the button to show what they said, and it wasn't good. I don't know if that happened, but it said it did.
Wait, timeout in his YouTube chat?
Yeah. So I hit the button where it says show the message that was hidden. I hit it by accident, but I don't know if it showed it. So I was just trying to find out if it did. I apologize because I went to time them out and I hit the other button.
All right.
Yeah, then there was just people righteous. You know, some things are just things happening and everything's not a conspiracy. Just ask if anybody's seen the Get Back documentary about the Beatles. Oh my goodness, you should have seen the fiasco after that. Oh my God, conspiracy, Paul is dead, this, that, and the thing. No, forget about it. I was like, can't you people just say it for what it is? Everything's not a conspiracy.
Well,
Yeah, I'll give you something concrete. One of the guys says that was a Tavistock social engineering exercise, whatever you want to call it. I know all about that. Heard about it. Know all about the Paul's Day cruise. I heard about that in 1976. But the guy said all of that hysteria, they were all paid actors and actresses that they hired to scream and cry. So I debunked that in a second because I had aunts and uncles and cousins that were in height of Beatlemania. They weren't paid. So that debunks your notion.
all right. Well, the thing I noticed is that
It
if
does.
somebody's persuaded, what's that?
Go ahead, I'm listening.
Thing I notice is that when somebody's persuaded in one way, you're not going to persuade them the other way. Kind of
That's
like
true.
how we're persuaded on a position, and there's no way they're going to persuade us out of that position, right?
Yeah, but this is what I'm saying. We have proofsies. Show me proofsies to persuade me out. See, we're not persuaded. We're shown evidence, we're shown proofs, and we come to what we know as reality. It's not a belief anymore. We know Earth is flat because it's measured. We got the black swan. It's observed. It's measured. It's navigated. Flat. So that's a proof. So yeah, nobody's going to persuade us from that. Now the other side, there's no proof.
All right.
Righteous, are you getting everything, or am I cutting in and out because I've had
Yeah,
bad
I'm getting
internet
everything.
lately?
I'm getting everything.
Okay.
But let's look at it this way. If we're fully persuaded in our position, then there's no point for them to try to persuade us, right?
Well, it makes no sense. Like you're saying, here's 10 pounds of meat. And you're saying, well, prove to me you give me the meat. And it's in your hand. I mean, that's makes no sense for them to even try. There is no persuading. We have a truth. We have a reality. Trying to think of a better illustration, can you?
Well, I'm still thinking about it.
Well, let's look at my son has a PlayStation, right? So he's
Okay.
hoping he gets a PlayStation. I'm telling him, so the whole time he believes that I'm going to get a PlayStation. Up until the point where I put it in his hand and he has it, it's a belief. Until it's in his hand, and then it's a reality. I don't have to persuade him any longer. I'm going to get a PlayStation. Is that better?
Yeah,
Are
I
you,
hear you.
are you talking about you proving to him that it's flat?
No, I'm talking about my little son. I'm just using an illustration because Righteous is saying that it's a waste of time for them to persuade us. How are they going to persuade us? We have the truth that Earth is flat.
Okay, it's only their job to persuade us if you look at it from the point of view that they're the one with the positive claim and it's an extraordinary claim. So it's upon them to prove it, well, not necessarily to us, but to anybody who's listening, to themselves, for example.
Yeah, but they can't, right? So they could never put that PlayStation in our hand, so to say.
No, Neil, they couldn't put the PlayStation in our hands. That's right.
The story. I was
So they're
trying to
wasting
figure
their
out how
time then,
many
right?
times we said it's over. I think they are. We're not wasting our time. We're bringing the truth out. We're bringing reality out. We're trying to wake people up, right? Giving them the information, and they do with it what they want.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that got you all warmed up. You know what I love? Long, protracted silences.
Well, you know what they say. They say silence is golden, but duct tape is silver.
Don't eat yellow snow.
I don't know. Sometimes feels like we yap our mouths and we get in trouble with what we say sometimes, or a lot of times. So sometimes we gotta button it up, or a lot of times button it up. I mean, you think about it, it's a lot of people just running their mouths that causes a lot of confusion, right?
What, when people on our own side talk complete nonsense, you mean?
Well, on all sides, say that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, There's I like to word it like this. People have to say have a lot of things to say, but not all of it right.
Otherwise known
People
as
love to
opinions are
talk.
like assholes, everyone's got one.
Yeah, I mean, I do notice that there's a lot of opinion talk going on. It's kind of becoming like a running joke, especially with Steve. Steve's like, I don't want to hear your opinion. uh, yeah, there's a lot of opinions there.
Hey, 10th.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
What's new on the docket?
A slight revelation, not a very big one. So the guy who was on yesterday, in quotes, here to learn, was actually here trying to get Bitcoin. So he had met the prerequisite conditions to come and present his globe proof. I keep saying these conditions. I don't know what they are. Cause why would I though? I'm not trying to get the Bitcoin.
One of those.
Say again, Rams.
So I was right.
I suspected he might have been one of those applicants.
So then I was right when I said he was disingenuous, right? I told you. I know how to read people.
So he came here for Bitcoin, but he came under the cover of I'm here to learn.
Well, I think he probably, I can only speculate that he had watched one of the former shows where someone came to try and get Bitcoin. When we were talking about it, we said he'll probably do a bit of reconnaissance because he's been due. I don't know if Dirth had told me his name. I'm pretty sure he had. But I'm pretty sure there's a couple of them. And after a little time, you just kind of forget, but just kind of think in the back of your mind, somebody might be due. So he timed it perfectly because I'd pretty much forgotten about it. I'd stop shouting out the fact that there was somebody due in trying to get Bitcoin. But if you were that guy and you'd gone back and just listened to the other attempts, you'd quickly realise that my empathy level is immediately at zero if you're trying to get Bitcoin. There's no taking you by the hand and offering a bit of sympathy for your need to learn in this instance. Even got an apology out of me at one point, right? Totally take that back now. Not at all, lying bastard. Here to learn? No, you're not. You're here to try and get 3 Bitcoin. Just lying shit. That's what they are. Total tactic. Yeah, it'll be easier if I'm there.
They'd be better
claiming
off
to be
just coming straight out and telling you that that's what they're here for.
Because then they'll be on the back foot. If they've had, like I say, if they've done any reconnaissance, I can only assume that would be the case. If you've got half brain, you'd go back and have a little listen to how former attempts had gone. Now, that might not be the case, but even if that isn't the case, and just instinctually he knows, just be a student. Go in as a student. Say you want to learn, and then they'll be far less defensive, and hopefully that'll put them on the back foot as I put my claim forward, and hopefully it slips through. So strategics, that's what his application of is, in my opinion, fairly glaring. Now I know he was here for Bitcoin. Because why are you here? Well, it's my first time ever talking to real flat earthers. Oh, really? So you haven't been back and forth conversing with Death then, you bloody liar? You know what I mean? Had I have known that, I'd have treated him very differently. I was relatively even-tempered with him for the most part. Well, it were in 10x the severity if I'd have known he was just here trying to get Bitcoin out of Death. But there we go.
Well, how did it end for him anyway? It didn't end well for him either way. To get that,
Doesn't matter.
I'm in the middle of talking here. For him to get anything,
It sounds like you stopped.
That's all right. For him to get anything, he's got to prove. And coming in undercover doesn't prove. It just means you came in undercover. You still have to debunk all the things that we're holding against your side, and you can't. They can't even use a level, let alone a sextant.
That's correct.
These people are useless. They're just fodder. They're going to go away in history. They're going to amount to nothing. Come with an argument and back it up.
My argument is if I slap a flat plane on the side of my sphere and then explain how I use that flat plane slapped on the side of my sphere that doesn't match anything to do with the spherical surface I'm claiming, then I've got an argument that can utilise the flat plane I've slapped on top of the sphere. Not that I can get the sphere, but, that's moot. I would say as an anti-flat earther, just so no one's confused about what's going on here.
Well, good. Just keep that role. So play the anti-flat earther, and I'd say then slap that onto the side of a box. Slap that onto any side of a triangle. Slap that onto any side of any shape or any curve of any shape. Go ahead and slap it on. You're doing it somewhere else. Then you're picking the central point of that other object or shape and laying this on it and saying, we're actually getting it from here, but we have to imagine that. See, all their books say imagining the center of the earth. They never are there. They're never taking it from there. They're always imagining the center of the earth. But where is it being done, as you've said before? It's being done on the surface. Take all the stuff, then they can go slap it in the center of a ball or center of anything else. But you got to imagine all that. That's not what's going on. I'll put up some slides. I'll be back.
No, you've got it. You've got it perfect. Just imagine it all. You've got it. So when you take an angle measurement on the surface, imagine that angle hasn't been measured at the surface. Imagine it's actually your compass at the middle of a ball, your protractor, at the middle of the ball. Not the angle measurement you actually took. That's easy. Just imagine that angle's taken from the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. You even mentioned it. You know the score. That's how it is done. In imagination land of a sphere. Said no baller.
Oh, I know.
Well, they say that because, hold on, they say that because this is what the guy told me. Well, we can't get to the center of the earth, so you have to imagine it. Oh, really? Thank you.
So, right. So you closed your eyes and you imagined it, right, Neil? Did you need a picture of the ball earth in front of you as your idol to worship while you were thinking about it?
It's funny that they say they can't get there. They know they can't. So that's why they say words like imagine. How are we going to say to measure it from there if we can't get there? You have to imagine it to go forward. That's exactly how he said it, actually.
We don't have to work at the
But
really
he's
is
saying
level.
they would have to physically get there.
Yeah, we don't have to work at the really is level. That's it. It's just that simple.
Okay, I got 2 slides of masturbate. Tell me when you're there. We just got to do this because the same way they got fooled is the same way we can wake some of them up. Maybe if there's some hope out there, because we got to use pictures.
Okay, I've got your first slide of a guy with his Zenith car,
Yep.
sort of pencil sketchy
All right,
guy.
so Measurement of an altitude. Pretty simple. Out of one of their own books. Zenith is directly above him. He's shooting the altitude of the star over a flat baseline. That's a right angle, folks. So you get the altitude. That's from the horizon up to the star. And you minus that from 90. I love 90. They hate 90, but 90's in all their books. So when you minus it from 90, you get your co-altitude. The next slide, please. So you can see it's happening over a flat surface here. Oh, well, you know what? Let's say we did that on the surface of a flat plane and the star was 20 degrees above the horizon and our co-altitude is 70 degrees. So now let's fool everybody and put that to the middle of this shape called the sphere and say we got it from there. Wake up.
Yeah, after you've measured the angle, so even in this second diagram, you know, on the top one that's got the word horizon in the flat plane.
Yeah.
Well, measuring an angle on a flat plane.
No, it's great. I mean, if they're going to fool them with pictures, maybe we can wake some of them up with pictures.
Good stuff. Thank you, 10th.
Yeah, we got to make it simpler because, I mean, we get it, but these pictures help because this is how they got fooled is by these pictures. Now we just have to reverse the process and say, okay, who was ever at the center of the earth taking a measurement? Well, nobody. We have to imagine that. I say, okay, well, why don't we imagine we're on the triangle then and pick the center of that? Why don't we imagine we're on a watermelon? Pick the center of that. Why don't we imagine we're on a box? Pick the center of that. Because whatever you do on the surface, you can take to the center of anything if you want. Or you could just say, I did it on the surface and that's reality. That's what I live on, a flat plane.
I think being an anti-flat earther, playing it devil's advocate style, is a little bit addictive. Because you can immediately hear ringing in my ears all the sarcastic anti-flat earth rebuttals that come to that, nonsensical though they all may be. You know, I can see the appeal of Baldwin wanting to get suckered into doing that particular role, because there is a certain amount of derived pleasure from spouting nonsense and knowing in the back of your mind, even though I know this is nonsense, everybody in the Western world's behind me when I say this. It's a really bizarre feeling.
Yeah, there's a cruelty to it in a way. And the guy doing it is aware of it, but still doing it. You know how many times I've talked to people just with this last image I was showing, and they say, where is the measurement being taken of the star's altitude above the horizon? Where's that being taken with the sextant? Well, it's on the ocean. I go, you've been on the ocean before? They go, yeah. And I go, do you see curvature? He says, no. I said, so why do they have to imagine it's curving away from the vanishing point where the furthest you could see is the horizon, where it's an apparent horizon? I mean, I had a boat. The more I went towards it, the more it kept moving away from me. It wasn't like a physical location I could reach ever. I run out of fuel by that. So it's like, they go, okay, so what's your point? I go, we live on a plane. How do you get an angle with a bent baseline? Can you get an angle with a bent baseline? No. Okay. So you've been lied to. Wake up.
We'll dig in the new housekeeping question then.
Oh, totally. I didn't expect it, but I'm glad it's there. Ball's going down in flames. There's so much going on right now in the back. There's other stuff I'm even looking at that's going to knock their heads more sillier. There's a book I'm reading, The History of Celestial Navigation, from the beginning, like the creation of the almanac. How they do that? How they use the ephemeris and knowing the positions of the stars, and how did they map that out? And then how are they saying you could lay that map anywhere on the surface of the earth via the tool of a sextant. This is interesting read. It's not going to disappoint us. It's going to disappoint them.
Try and get a bit of warmth in the Discord server, so it's not like me having to point out how you guys haven't been warmed up. To be fair, I don't pay you guys enough attention during the pre-show. Don't try and involve you.
Well, we gave them Monday, didn't we? We wanted them to have Discord Monday. They should jump up for that.
I completely forgot about that, sorry.
It's okay. I'll remind you. Okay, that was a clue for you Discord people to say, yeah, what about us? How many of you are there?
There's 12 of them.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
12 of us here.
You guys ignore us. Getting tired of it, Nathan.
I'm sorry, I know. You're right. That's what I'm doing though. I'm offering you a bit of love. What do you want? Warming you guys up for the live show, so you say hello to me.
Usually the pre-shows are my favorite because you can get a word in. During the live show, things can get really excited and there's a lot more people. And yeah.
I blame Arwin.
I mean, I don't blame anybody. It's just there's a lot more people, right? And people get stirred up and everybody wants to jump in like we want to jump in, right?
Yeah, that's
So-
true. But I also blame Arwin.
Yeah, you notice I didn't interfere yesterday. I knew what was going on.
Check it out.
Just
Neil
did not
saying,
interfere.
do you want me to edit out the bits where you interrupted?
I said a couple of things, but I didn't interfere.
Well, if you guys want a subject, I noticed the last Glowbusters, right? It got taken down before I even could check, but I noticed in my feed the title of the video. It was something about is the AE map like disinformation or something along those lines. And I think it was a response to Jake's video. You know, Jake the asshole. And yeah, I was wondering what you guys think about that, about the AE map, because I used to be an AE mapper, but I'm not an AE mapper anymore. So I've been noticing more stir out there about the AE map, like, and what's going on. This map can't work, and
You know what
and
AE
such,
stands
right?
for? Righteous. What does AE stand for?
Azimuthal, something like that.
Azimuthal, Equidistant.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, anyways, the circle one. Let's just say it's the circle one, right?
Right, but do you know what it is? What is the azimuthal equidistant projection? What kind of projection?
Oh, is it the globe?
Yeah, it's a globe projection.
Glow
That's correct.
projection map.
Right. Well, I'm more basically what Jake was pointing out and what a lot of people point out, and even I looked into. The issue is with the sun. The sun below, like, what we call the equator, right? Because in South America, like just south of Argentina, there's an area that has like 17 hours of sunlight. Not sunlight, you can see the sun because when you go on time and date, it says sunrise and sunset. So that's, yeah.
Okay. So what's your question
So
again?
anyways, well, people always have this like idea of like the earth has got to be like a circle, right? And it goes like the sun goes in a circle and all that chat, right? But there's the issue with the sun, like, and I'm not saying we know how it all works and stuff like that, but it's a huge issue for that kind
This
of,
is up my alley, boy. Yeah, I'm with you, brother.
yeah, like 17 hours. It's like a mirror of what goes on like to us here in the north, right? Because we get like, we can get like 17 hours.
Okay, but just to
So
bring it
yeah,
back to
that's
the
kind of,
to bring it back to the map question though, What is it you're fishing for in terms of our opinion on the Azimuthal equidistant globe projection? What precisely is
Well,
it that you're hoping to get out of us as a conclusion, or is there a conclusion that you want to draw from that?
well, okay. I like the idea of not subscribing to a model, right? But deep down inside, a lot of people subscribe to that circle map,
Okay, and
right? And
keep going.
there's like some objections to it right now out there, and yeah, it seems like it's coming more to the surface, is what I'm saying. And the big one is the sun.
Yeah, and its
Big one
movement to
is the
how
sun.
the initialization of that process of mapping has been derived. If you take the equator as the midpoint for the celestial travel of that object you're describing as the sun. So,
Right.
bearing that in mind, what I would say in this regard, my conclusion, if you want one, is that given that the deception, the nature of the deception, is encompassed by the mapping of the territory, then it stands to reason that the most deception is going to lie in that particular area. So the first thing I looked at with Martin Leakey was this, along with a few others who are still knocking around. But there's thousands of them, thousands of maps. Why? Well, because there needs to be if that's where the deception lies. The deception is about the very ground beneath our feet, and the maps show that.
Right. So you agree that, they could just take one deception and replace it with another deception, right? And just plop it for us and we can run for it with it. I mean,
Potentially. Depends on what the deception's purpose is in that specific regard. So, if for the sake of argument, Math Power Land's correct, so the reason Math Power Land's called Math Power Land is because that's what he says the entirety of this argument is about. It's about the mathematics, that we can all agree upon, and about the power that is acquired from this deception in regards to the land, and that would be the thing we're discussing when we talk about maps. Well, if there's a deception about the amount of land, then flat or globe, so long as it's, not capable of being breached, then, which is more useful to me, it stands to reason that if you're lying about the territory, if you've got a limitation that you could get to, like a dome, then people will go out and look for it and not find it, and potentially in doing so find the extra land. Well, that's no good. Much better to have it wrap around itself, because then the impression is that you're just going to go round and round in circles and never ever reach anywhere, so what's the point? So, from that standpoint, not really true that one is no different to the other in terms of their deception about how much of it there is, because one would leave people with the question of, well, if there's a fence around us, let's go and have a look at it. Hey, Arwin.
Good morning.
But that's my
Hello.
that's my conclusion. That's why I think there's the highest levels of deception are in cartography and mapping, because that's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah. So that's why, I mean, you can use a map that works from the center, but there are other ways that people do this. I mean, there are square earthers out there. You know that, right?
Whatever.
Yeah, but they're blockheads.
The map is not the terrain. That's the bottom line. That's the essence of reification. So once you appreciate that,
That's a
you can be sort of self-assured that you're not falling into any sort of nonsensical worldviews that you don't need to adhere to. The tool can be utilised for whatever its application is, and that's useful. Now, because it's very carefully worked out, they work very well for the most part. They've all got their flaws. So there's no universal map that's showing you how it all works, in other words. Well, we weren't the ones producing them. The ones producing them have got the errors in them. That's their issue, not mine. And none of them are globe-shaped. They're all flat in terms of how they actually operate. Well, that makes sense too, because we're on a flat plane. So you have to have them operate in a way that's going to function. So that's what they've done. Of course, they tell you that the back engineering of all of the models and maps that you'd roll out from a map flat onto a table to actually navigate it, well, they're all derived from Sphere Earth. They're all globe models, right? They're projections. And here's how this projection works. So you can lay out a globe flat. That is what they will say when you navigate over a flat, slightly inaccurate map that doesn't quite work in certain aspects. Azimuthal Equidistant, for example, works from the centre out, as was just highlighted by Eli. Well, as long as you bear that in mind, you can use that map quite happily. And when the idiots on the globe side tell you that the Azimuthal Equidistant map doesn't work, and then they pick one aspect of it, like travelling across it, i.e. not from the centre out as it's designed to function, they'll hold that up as some straw man. You know, it would be much easier to just, if you understand what the map is and how it's been derived, to say, so your globe projection doesn't work then? Wow, crappy globe projection. Sorry, you were under the misapprehension that that's my world? No, the map is not the terrain, my friend. The terrain, an aspect thereof, is that it's flat, and I can demonstrate that quite easily. But your misapprehension that this flat terrain that we're navigating with this flat map has been derived from a sphere, you were just under the impression that that was my flat map. No, it isn't. It's your globe projection. You're telling me how your globe projection fails? How interesting. And there were you thinking you would burn this as a straw man flat earth model that I don't adhere to. So, in the case of Jaron versus flat earth asshole, or whatever he now goes by, he's been banging this crappy old drum for a significant period of time. Has he not got anything else to say on the matter? The AE map doesn't work. Okay, have you recognised that it's a globe projection? Maybe pick it up and start throwing it back at the Globers then, Jake. Because it's their map, not yours, to defend as being nonsense. We would also agree, on account of the fact that it's a globe projection that doesn't work when they want to hold it up as a straw man to debunk. It's not our map. If you've got one, let me know. I've looked at a lot. Anyway, that's my two pence on the matter. We're a little bit late as a result. Anybody got anything to add? Because it is an interesting subject.
Yeah, you're looking at the wrong map. You're looking at the wrong map. We have a map, just not the one they're showing you.
Okay. Anybody else? If not, I'm going to go live.
Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Did you have a point you wanted to add to that? Go ahead.
I've been hearing, the other problem I've been hearing about the circle map that we don't subscribe to, obviously, because we don't live on a model, is that, and I've heard this talked about before on here, is that the stars, they say that the stars go counterclockwise around Sigma Octavis. I know that that's a relative direction, but do stars circle around Sigma Octavis at all, or has that been disproven?
I'll have to cover it in the live show. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by somebody rudely trying to get in on the action while I'm doing the intro. That would be Chocolate saying. Eli, Refracted Curvature, 10th Man, Arwin, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Yeah, don't let me down, Discord.
Yo,
Woohoo!
yo.
Yo, welcome.
Hi ho diddly.
Excellent, excellent, good stuff. We're going to kick off with our brand new housekeeping question. Any evidence you can have a curved adjacent whilst acquiring an elevation angle?
Nope. You can pretend it's a plane and then think it's a globe.
What do you need for elevation angle again? What do you need for that?
Flat plane.
Oh, what did Quinky think? We got that. That's how the sextant is used. It's great, isn't it?
I do like this argument so much because before you do anything, you got to measure an angle. You're gonna need a flat plane for that. So where are you gonna beg the question? I mean, it only dawned on me thanks to Akuma Virus, to be perfectly honest, when he was like, "We haven't got there yet. We haven't got there yet." It's like, got where? Well, got to the point where I've got my flat Earth angle measured in the bag, and then I can beg the question of and move that angle to the centre of presupposed spherical Earth. And hope you don't notice that now the angle you've measured on the ground on a flat plane has been moved to the centre of a sphere. But we haven't got there yet because, we're talking about how we measure angles on flat planes. So I need to get it done, get it measured, and then quickly move on and hope no one notices. So I can beg the question thereafter. But you're going to need a flat plane for that angle measurement.
Yeah, that checks out.
Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Only mathematical evidence, no geometric.
Bit quiet there, Arwin.
Only mathematical evidence.
If all your measurements require a flat plane, then why would you talk about curvature?
Because a good
Because
chunk
of
of the Western
imagination.
world are under the misapprehension that they're on a spherical object.
Exactly.
No physical Earth curve then. Mathematics isn't physical.
Just saying that it's funny that people think that life can exist on a spherical object. That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's definitely the extraordinary claim. Go ahead, Neil.
Oh, it was me. Us New Yorkers all sound alike. I can't understand why they would think that measuring angles requires some kind of spherical math.
Oh, it definitely doesn't.
They probably wouldn't unless they're challenged on their sphericity of their spherical math. That's the problem. They've been challenged on it. Now they're like, oh shit, we don't have that. We have a flat plane that we have to assume is a guy.
I think what they mean is draw a circle that represents a sphere and then draw lines on it.
Hold on, there's a contradiction. Draw a circle that would be two-dimensional, flat. And then pretend it's not two-dimensional and flat. That would be a circle. Pretend it's a sphere. But then it doesn't work in the same way that a circle operates. When you're getting a circle of equal elevation, for example, there's a reason it's called a circle of equal elevation. The clue's in the title, equal elevation. 2D, circle, flat, no elevation, changes, equal elevation. Well, that isn't comporting with something that's spherical in any way, shape, or form. So, no, I'm afraid not.
Well, you don't have to work on the really is level unless you want to. You've been given permission, remember?
Thank you very much. I think I should send George Mooser a little thank you letter for that. It's always useful to not have to work on the really is level in all walks of life. What's that you want doing? Sure. When you say doing, do you mean on the really is level? Because we don't have to work at the really is level.
Wasn't he the editor of Scientific American?
That's correct. George Mooser.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so then he knows what each of those words mean in that statement. Because if you're going to be that high up in the science world and you say, we don't have to work on the really is level, then the opposite must be true. He must know how to work on the really is level. But working that way, he's got nothing for it. So he's going to have to go into imaginary land.
But to be fair,
But the best part,
well, I was going to say we're misquoting him slightly. He did have a weasel word in there that we were missing out. You do realise that, right? Awkward though this may be.
Well, let's hear it.
You don't necessarily have to work at the really is level.
Okay, but if you're going to be the editor of Scientific America, then you know how to say that without the word necessarily, and just say my findings of this project has been on the really is level. But why didn't he say that?
Yeah, but the funny thing is that statement had to be made because he was being, I want to say, challenged on that point by his own side. Because remember, he had that interview. Why? Because Fight the Tight Shirt was telling us all day long how gravity is a force. Remember?
Right.
And then he was challenging this citation by Georgie Musser, where he's saying gravity is not a force, and he had to correct him when he say, "Well, gravity is not a force, literally."
All right.
I mean, that's pretty bad.
So basically, when it comes to gravity, the guy says, I can't prove this on the really is level, but I could make up some words and say, not necessarily on the really is level, but you can think of it that way.
To this day,
when you want to do math and stuff.
Sleeping Warrior is still quite smug about this. So when I do...
That will be double up.
When I pay a bit of attention to the Skype feeds, which I did a couple of days ago, one of the things I saw was Sleeping Warrior with a photograph, a screen cap of a couple of comments, and above it he'd put, I do love correcting Fight the Flat Earth. And then underneath it got him stating exactly that, talking about gravity as though it's a force. And then underneath it's got Anthony correcting him with George Musa from his own interview. And just underneath that, it's just got Anthony going lol, because he's quite smug about this, because it was him that pushed the issue with Musa eventually making an appearance as a result of him poking the bear, so to speak, to put it in Anthony's language.
Yeah, that was a beautiful move Anthony made, and Fight the Flat Earth fell for it.
Oh, he's in the chat right now, and he's got arrows pointing to himself. He says smug. Indeed. And rightly so, though. He's telling you, yeah, idiot, gravity is a force. You're quoting Musa out of context. I'm going to get Musa to tell you how out of context you're quoting him. Hey, Musa, gravity's a force, right? No. Literally, it's not a force. But we don't have to work at the really is level. That's what he told him.
Well, does anyone who hasn't spoken on the panel want to speak, as this is an appropriate time to interject?
Are you just being polite? Did you want to say something there, Eli?
I'm being a dick. I'm sorry.
And I just want to know we're not talking over any Globers that are destroying us right now, right? Just making sure.
But we're not stopping any flat earthers from speaking either. The floor is definitely yours, as we are all brothers and on equal footing.
I know we're in the middle of housekeeping, but I mentioned this in the pre-show. I got a message from DITRH saying, I take it I don't have to give this dude 3 Bitcoin then. It is 3. That's what he said to me, 3 Bitcoin. So, bloody hellfire, that's a lot of money. Anyway, he was like, I don't have to give that dude 3 Bitcoin then. And it took me a second or two to figure out what he was talking about. And I was like, oh, that was one of your guys then. Lying. I won't swear because we're live. Try and avoid it. What a liar. He said he was here to learn. No, he was here to try and get 3 Bitcoin. That totally changes the context. And I told Dirth this. I said he'd have got 10x the vigor from me. He would have got a lot more pep if I'd have known that was the case. So instead, I'm here to learn. It's the first time I'm ever talking to a flat earther, really. Oh, really? So you haven't been conversing with Dirth then and fulfilling criteria so that you can actually try and get this 3 Bitcoin. Yeah. Just a liar. They all are. Tactics.
All they got left.
But yeah, I would have been a lot more severe with the guy, like the other guy who came previously to try and get Bitcoin. There's been several now, but the one previous to the most recent guy yesterday, the moment I found out he was after Bitcoin, it's like, I'm not going to give you any answers. I'm not going to tell you about, like I did with this guy, give him more than I would normally. I'm not in any happy position to tell somebody who's trying to claim Bitcoin how things work. Whereas in that case, we're telling him how, well, you're more dense than the air. In other words, I'm tossing him a bone because I think he's here to learn. Right? Now, if you're here to tell us how it all works to get Bitcoin, none of that would have occurred. Certainly wouldn't have got an apology for me telling him off for chanting when he's repeating things we've taken apart. Again, with me under the misapprehension because he's lied that he's here to learn. Right? No.
Right.
That would have been very different. Now, it probably would have been less airable. As in, it's probably a good thing because he kept me a little bit more even-tempered as a result because I genuinely believed what he told me. Here to learn. No, here to win Bitcoin, liar.
Well, he did sound very natural and all. He did sound like it was like the first time he ever stumbled upon this. So we talked about it afterward, how he's a newbie. Well, he certainly knows how to act like one, I guess.
Maybe, but it was actually.
Did call him on it.
Go on,
That's
John,
why.
sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I was just saying 10th man called him on it. Said he was full of crap.
Oh,
And
did
that's
he?
why I said.
Hold on. Did he? Did you, I was going to ask that in the pre-show. Did anybody actually call him on this? I don't remember hearing that in the. Go on,
I think Neil was the one during the process saying, "I don't trust this guy."
Right.
Yeah, but did anybody
Yeah, he
overtly
did say
guess? Did anybody actually state overtly that this guy's probably here to win Bitcoin?
No, nobody said that. Bitcoin did not come up.
Right, so he was successful in his deception, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, and that credits Arwen's point right there. Arwen said he was a good actor. He fooled us all because he seemed natural.
Whoa! I didn't get fooled. I told you he was
You didn't,
genuine.
Neil.
We credited you, Neil. We credited you.
Yeah.
I also didn't because I don't give people attributes that they don't deserve. And the first thing that I noticed and pointed out when the air was clear was that he wasn't here to learn, but that's what he said, so he's a liar.
Well, back to the point I was trying to make that Arwen made is that they're good actors, and until more information comes out, people buy the act because of the empathy and the sincerity of their voice. So just think how much the ballers have been fooled by good actors.
Okay, I've got to clarify that. I don't want crap in the comments. I just know that's going to get you crap, 10th. Right, actors, just to give clarity. He's not saying paid, trained actor. That's not what 10th's saying. In the same way as if you go and watch the behavioural panel, that's something we discussed yesterday, just as a mild follow-on, they will discuss how people have got a script and how they're acting. Now, by that they mean behaving, and by script they mean the words that you've already decided in your mind you're going to say. Doesn't mean paid to have a piece of paper and words written on it that you're learning line by line. So when we say acting and they're actors, it means they're putting on an act. Just to give clarity. Don't want anyone saying, how do you know he's a paid? No, that's not what's being claimed, just for clarity.
Oh my gosh, does it get that crazy?
Yeah, it does, yeah. That's because of our own bloody side. So let's take a breath. Because of some flat earthers. Should I even go here, or should I just carry on with housekeeping?
Carry on with housekeeping.
I was just going to say, toss a coin.
His actual argument was pathetic. Like, I mean, he was trying to appeal to gas pressure, and he was trying to appeal to gravity and gas go down, go boom, boom. I mean, you don't have to be around much to hear that debate to know that's not going to be acceptable. Gravity is not going to be an acceptable justification for gases not expanding out into a vacuum. And that was the crutch of his whole argument that he came here with, that he thought he was, that he said he was at the start.
Where does the buckyballs example come from? Because I know Rumpus uses it or used it. Where does that come from?
I don't know. I just know that gas doesn't behave in the way that they describe it when they say gas go down, go boom boom, parabolic motions, falling down from the sky, all of this kind of crap. I just know that that isn't the case. That is not gas behaviour. But it's gas behaviour in line with heliocentric ideas of forces pulling gases down, because everything goes down, go boom boom, everything's subject to 9.8 metres per second. So I know why they assert it, but they just haven't thought it through. And it's not his fault or his having a crap argument. It's just the globe argument's crap, because we know how it falls apart now. He's just got a standard globe argument. Now, he kept appealing to it and justifying it. So he's either appealing to gravity, because he needs gas to go down, go boom boom, even though it doesn't. And Quantum Eraser was pointing out to me, he's like, clouds aren't gas. It's like, yeah, and I don't feel the need to necessarily disclaim that when we've had fairly prolonged discussions about the phase change of clouds and what's going on in that particular scenario. For me, it was just a quick and dirty way of getting somebody to not have to describe the phase change from the puddle into the gas that then rises up to then go into the phase change of the clouds. It's just there's an easy, quick, dirty shortcut to what's that gas doing, without having to say, well, the gas has come from the ground and it's evaporated after a phase change, and then that gas has actually gone up, and then when it's reached a certain level, it started to condense again, and that means it's undergone another phase change in this beautiful balance cycle in the air that we have for a water cycle. But when it's actually a vapour, it's not going down. I don't need to disclaim all that if I just get him to look at a cloud. So, to the very, very justified, that's not actually gas that was pointed out to me. Yeah, I'm well aware. It's just a quick and dirty way of getting there. That was all.
Well, obviously, if you had referred to it
Can I say
as...
something? Can I say one thing?
Hang on. Obviously, if you had referred to it as a paid gas molecule, you would have to explain it.
Say that again.
Obviously, if you would have referred to it as a paid gas molecule, you would have to have explained it.
Paid?
Paid, P-A-I-D, paid actor, paid gas molecule.
Right on.
It's just silly. Back to that thing, and I'll let Neil jump in there. Russell Crowe is a paid actor. He played the Spaniard in The Gladiator. We're all familiar with that, I take it. So he got paid to act as another person.
Are you not entertained?
Yes, perfect. So this guy talks to Dearth. He comes on the show as another guy, not the same guy that talked to Dearth, coming for Bitcoin. He doesn't even bring it up. He's coming in incognito. So he's acting like a paid actor, but he's not going to get paid because he can't win the argument. End of story.
I'm a dude playing another dude disguised as another dude.
Yeah, you could also
Tropic Thunder.
You know what? You know what, Chocolate? He's just going to get a Bitcoin part. That's it.
could also call them LARPers, right? Live action role playing. Instead of actors, LARPers.
That term, that sounds like a gamer term. Not familiar with that one.
Yeah, I think it is. What's up, Roger?
Yeah, Chocolate. Yeah, it's usually done by people that play war games, right? They LARP. They dress up like soldiers.
Yeah, they meet up in the park and dress up in medieval costumes
and
play out a battle scene.
Gotcha. No, that sounds far better than a gamer. No offence to your gamers out there, but of the two, I'm sure one is cast as being the most dweeby thing ever, and that would be the LARPers, correct? They're the biggest dweebs out there. No, I'm pretty sure that they're interacting with other people while they're actually out on the battleground pretending to die with a sword shoved in their armpit. Actually, I think that sounds like a lot more fun than going onto a computer simulation of the exact same thing and doing it as a character with a load of sprites. I know which one I'd rather do. Neither are married, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
you sound like a nerd.
Did you just call me a nerd for saying that I would take one of the lesser of two evils as the LARPing
Yes,
over the
I
gaming?
did.
I don't know. I think we've got somebody who could offer an expert first-hand opinion on this. Arwin, have you ever LARPed? He's disappeared. of all the people on my regular panel, I would say
people are doing it for health reasons, for exercise and social, a bit of social interaction. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So I guess it's boring just to go outside. You gotta get in the costume and go play a role just to make it worthwhile.
Sorry, what are we talking about now?
People who do it for exercise, instead of just walking and enjoying nature.
Oh, my bad. Sorry, my mind drifted off to me and my wife. I got completely confused for a minute there.
Yeah, it's funny. Anyway, back to housekeeping questions. Unless Neil, you were going to say something.
Any evidence you can have gas pressure without a container?
None whatsoever. The guy tried that one too.
But why were we talking about LARPing again?
It's because he wasn't going to be called a paid actor anymore.
I see. He was having a LARP. That's what he was doing.
Well, he's an unpaid actor because he didn't succeed, and he's a LARP.
Okay, you've got me now. Can you hear me? Freaking crap.
Stop talking, Neil.
I love how everybody bought into the no, don't respond to him.
Jokes.
Yes, we hear you, Neil.
Yeah.
For the audience's benefit, this is definitely going to be worth this. I promise Neil's going to make this worthwhile.
I was just going to say, but this was a while ago. What happened yesterday was great because it's textbook. How to dissect these people and how foolish they sound.
Told you it was going to be worth it. Absolutely textbook. Which bit was textbook? I don't really know what you're talking about, Neil. You've not given enough context. That wasn't worth it at all.
Oh, shut up. The guy you were handing his ass yesterday.
You wanted Bitcoin? Ah, that really bugs me. Because I'd much prefer to have shouted at him a lot more than I did. Oh well, you live and learn.
I told you don't apologize.
I regret it sincerely, Neil.
You know who else has used that I'm here to learn, I'm just here to learn nonsense line?
Virus.
Kumu Virus. Yep. So that nonsense doesn't go anywhere with me. Oh, I'm here to learn. Yeah, all right.
Well, why does
After spending an hour and a half arguing with us, oh, but I'm just here to learn, guys.
I think Brian summed it up.
Why...
Go on, sorry.
I'm sorry. No, I was going to say, I wonder why he's not trying to get 3 Bitcoin.
He was. Brian summed it up yesterday. He wants to learn why us stupid flat earthers don't beg the question of a sphere earth like he does. That's what he was here to learn.
Yeah, when you come in like that, underestimating what we have in our arsenal, critical thinking, logic, facts, proof, good luck.
Shout out to Godzilla37. He says, is Neil's going to show up today? I haven't heard from him.
Excellent.
No, he shouldn't be so mean. He's paying me a direct compliment, which I didn't realise when I was being mean to him. Thank you, Neil. I appreciate the compliment. Anyway, moving on. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Yeah. No evidence. What is the sun? You're at this 7 years. You don't know what the sun is yet, Nathan?
No, Neil, I don't know what the sun is. Do you?
Having a clue.
Anybody?
That's what's beautiful about us. We tell the truth.
It's a light in the sky, and we have an angular relationship to it.
Yeah, that's something we've recently learned.
Can't we solve the height for it with trigonometry?
No.
The lighthouse on the cliff is a vertical angle when you use the sextant because you're using the ocean seashore as the base. But you have charts that tell you how high the cliff is, how tall the lighthouse is, and so you're able to do it there. But we don't have that same information on the sun. But we can figure out the angular relationship. And that's where we're at.
There's aspects of this that is being investigated by Tenth and Adam, and they're fascinating in terms of the Masonic implications, which is something that was discussed. Fascinating conversation that we had yesterday, by the way. And in terms of the way that you're measuring the sky, you're measuring it in angles, and then you're translating it down to the ground, the flat plane. Now that 90 degree, what does that represent? What is, in tool terms, a 90 degree tool? Anybody? Not the panel. Anybody in Discord tell me. A square. Right. And you're measuring angles of the sky in degrees. So your square and compass that the Masons use to represent whatever they're representing, well, this is an aspect of that. You know, when you're describing an angular measurement of the sky and relating it to the ground below, you're talking about square and compass. That's what you're talking about. So,
while we're on that, who could prove to me you could ever have a 90 on the curved surface?
Can't. The square bit is related to the ground. You're going to need that 90 degrees. You're going to need that flat baseline. The Earth is obviously observably, measurably, and navigatably flat. That's the square bit. Now, taking the compass bit, which relates to the stars, not that we're going to assert that we know what they are or what height they are in actual terms. You can't acquire that information from this. Now, you can make a set of assumptions about the height that you will use for a flat sky when you triangulate with them, based on the angles that you're going to measure to them. But that relationship is not the ground that you've stood on. Now, when you do that part of the measurement, you need a square, because the Earth's flat. All they've done is reverse engineered how the lights in the sky appear, measured with angles, as I've just described, and reverse engineer that to be the ground that you're standing on. It isn't. But that's how they've done it.
Do you think the G in the Masonic symbol is for gravity or God?
I don't know. I've no clue. I mean, there's been several discussions with Masons and ex-Masons, some of them quite high up in this stuff. And I think it's just by their nature, if they're at that stage in Masonic activity, they end up talking in a kind of cryptic way. And some of the stuff that's been disseminated over the period that I've heard from them kind of falls into line with the investigations that we're doing now. So a couple of days ago, Adam explained that, you know, he got told off by QE. He's like, once you've killed this argument for the ballers, stop, because otherwise people will just think you're talking nonsense. And Adam had to go on to it saying, well, no, I'm interested in how this all works. And when you follow those lines of investigation down, you suddenly find that what the Masons are doing and some of their symbology is very applicable to what we're finding out about the nature of the world. Now, does this help us in debunking globe arguments? Well, no, not really. And Adam was quick to disclaim that. But it's fascinating. A lot of what's been discussed is about the Masons. Now, is this a particular subject of interest to me? Well, I've got to be honest, no, it isn't. But then when you see these sorts of correlations, you do raise an eyebrow, which is precisely what I'm doing. I'm going, that's interesting. What do you know? Now, but for the fact that there's been a lot of people in this particular segment of the internet that would be flat Earth, that have exposed information about the Freemasons, that, you know, I've got that knowledge to tie together. Does it mean that the correlation means anything? Well, probably not. Maybe. You don't know. But it's just a fascinating folly to look at after the fact. When you're comfortable in your worldview and you know it's flat, you know, it's not like we're going to stumble across this stuff and go, hold on, you're telling me the compass applies to the ground? Oh dear. Because if that was the case, I'd just say, okay, we're on a sphere. Moving on with life. And I'd be comfortable in the fact we're on a sphere in the same way I'm comfortable in the fact we're on a flat plane. It's not the case. We're going to apply that square to the Earth. Doesn't matter which way you like to dice the fact that you're going to measure angles on flat surfaces. That's always going to be the case. This is the best flat Earth proof ever. So there we go. You know, just the Masons know it. We know it. The majority of the Western world are being deceived and kept under control by knowing something that isn't true to be the case when we know otherwise. Sorry, go ahead, Tenth.
Yeah, I'd like to share some new slides plus the slides I shared earlier. If you don't mind going to Master B and talk about the 90. We'll go with the sun over the flat plane with the zenith elevation angle with the azimuth. Do you see that one?
The guy with the sketchy drawing.
No. Keep going forward. You'll see the sun, a little image of the sun over a square with the 90 with words written zenith, elevation, and azimuth.
Yeah, I've got it.
Okay. So as you see here in this slide, this is a horizontal coordinate system. Now, where are you as a sextant user, a navigator on a boat or on land or on an airplane with a bubble sextant? Well, you definitely need to nail down horizontal. So if you're on the ship, you aim at the horizon and you bring the sun's image to the horizon and you rock it and do all the stuff that the sextant's designed to do. So this definitely is in the sextant manuals. So if you're going to read the sextant manual, how it operates, it tells you, aim the horizon mirror. They even labeled it horizon mirror at the horizon. Okay, that's why you got calibrated and set at 0 your degree, and your mirrors have to be perpendicular to each other. And there's a whole bunch of things you got to do to make sure it's an accurate tool before you even put your hands on it to use it. But once you do, you line up the horizon, bring the sun to that, and there is where you get your 90. So it's definitely Earth-based horizontal coordinate system. And we're back to the 90. You need a 90. Now, see, this picture shows how you get a 90 because you need a flat plane. You need a straight adjacent, a baseline. If you go to the next picture, which one is it, Nathan? Because
it hasn't come out.
Yeah, it's okay. That's one of those PNG things. It's not going to show up. Go to the following picture. So it shows a guy with a sextant doing exactly what I described. There's the horizon. That's your adjacent, your baseline. The zenith is your 90. And that star also is got a vertical relationship to that horizon with its 90, where its GP is directly over that part of the Earth. So this is how it's done. This is how you measure altitude. And you can all see that straight baseline, that adjacent to a right angle triangle. If you go to the next one, is the image from this morning, pre-show. And so you can see here, this is all from their books, by the way. They're showing you how you're doing it on the flat plane. And then they want you to imagine all the data you got from that flat plane, move it to the center of a presupposed sphere. So they do it on the flat plane, then they move it to center and imagine they live on a ball. But the tool itself cannot work on the ball. That's why they have this tangential plane here, because this is what's happening. And then they say, well, we're actually imagining the angle is from the center of the sun to the center of the Earth. You say, well, that's a nice imagination. How'd you get the information? Well, I was on the ocean. What'd you aim at? Horizon. Was it bent? No. So you took that measurement off of a plane, and then you went to La La Land with it. I'm done.
Shout out to Tony Whitcomb, who says, it's quite telling that no ballers are offering a Bitcoin for proof of a flat Earth. The money would be gone in a flash. Yeah, right on. The same applies in reverse. You know, why aren't people chasing after this Bitcoin? You know, there should be a flood of people, right? The entirety of the Western world thinks they're on a sphere, and yet, what, we've had 4 people try and get this Bitcoin so far? Life-changing amount of money.
La La Land is also a plane. I mean, going to the center of the earth and then still pretending it's a sphere cut in half. That's still a plane.
Yes, now you're seeing the trickery. But again, they're imagining it's the center of a sphere, and that's the La La Land of it. But they still have to do the plane at the center because guess what? They have to have a 90. And they do. They have a 90 right on the surface of this beautiful plane we live on. But they're not happy with that 90. They want that 90 to be at the center of something. So they need the plane there too.
Yeah, they're going to need an angle first, though, aren't they? They're going to need a flat plane to get it. Quick shout out to Sleeping Warrior, who's in my chat, encouraging people to give me thumbs up. Thank you very much for being my cheerleader. I really do appreciate it, actually, Sleeping Warrior. It gives me an opportunity to plug the share button as well. So please share the show. Smash that share button. That is the only reason we've got an audience, for all the people out there who've smashed it already. Thank you very much indeed to you for smashing it, if you've done so already. If you haven't, please smash the share button.
Back to Eli's point. Just
Hey, I'm a cheerleader.
Back to Eli's point.
Thank you, Neil.
So when we look at the horizon, that's 0 for us because it's a horizontal based measurement. So you start at 0 at the horizon and go upwards until directly above you is 90. Okay. So guess what Eli was letting everyone know? That when we do that on this beautiful plane of ours, there's 0 on the equator. That's why the equator is 0.
What a load of crap.
Yeah, indeed.
Sorry, just 0 from the center of the earth to out through the earth to the equator. What the? Anyway, sorry. What were you saying, Nathan?
Well, to go on from what you're saying, you're right. I mean, they're matching it up after the fact. So they're measuring it on a flat plane and then saying, no, this corresponds to my moving of it to a centre of a prespherical Earth because the stars are infinitely distant and look how they come in parallel. And it's basically the same as it coming from a prespherical Earth. Nothing to see here other than me measuring an angle on a flat plane. And check it out. Here's my flat plane. I'll just slap it on top of a sphere. And you're like, all right. So when you do it, you don't need any of the spherical bit. You just need to measure the angle on a flat plane. Yeah. That's why I've got a flat plane slapped on top of this sphere here. You know. All right, well, how do you justify the sphere itself? Well, I assume a physical geometric sphere edge horizon that I can measure to get an R value with a dip angle measurement. And that's basically the same as the dip angle that I'm talking about when we talk about the sextant. Oh, I see. You think that's the same, do you? The height correction that you'd make if you're 10 foot above the deck, then you got to correct for that. You think that's actually a correction for the dip of the horizon that's moving away from the horizontal. Well, if that was the case, why would you draw a horizontal plane on top of it? You know, you're looking at it with the horizon mirror to establish that flat plane, but you're saying it's dipping away now to justify you moving the angle that you're actually measuring on that flat plane you've slapped on top of your sphere to the centre of the sphere that you don't need to make the measurement. Gotcha. Yeah, thank you, anti-flat earthers. It's nice that we've heard that several times so I can summarise it so easily.
The videos that Tim sent me. Sorry,
go ahead. No, go on, Eli. Go on.
Yeah, man. Like the guy, and it's not the first guy because he sent me. I think the first one. His channel is Practical Navigator. And both times when they're trying to educate like beginners, they say you don't have to worry about the advanced stuff at first if you don't want to. If you want to be able to navigate, you don't need any advanced spherical trigonometry or anything like that. I mean, so then why do they think that we need it?
If they're going from the center of a sphere, don't they need the R value for that? And how'd they get that?
Yeah, they don't. I did just cover that. They assume they've got a physical geometric sphere edge for a horizon, and then they measure dip angle, a la Al-Biruni.
You know, on the compass point, do you draw spheres with compasses or circles?
Circles?
Yeah, so not spheres.
No. Was this scientific evidence of gravity?
Well, we'll get down to that real soon. We're just wrapping this one up.
Make up your mind. Is it up or down?
That was a pun.
I know.
I was going to make note that when you hear the ballers say, all you got to do is open the Sexton manual and read it. All you got to do is see what it says in there. They lead you to believe like they've done that, right? I mean, if someone's speaking with that much confidence, you figure like, okay, well, he must have done it.
Does it say in the manual to go down to the center of the earth? What does it say in the manual? what the fuck?
I'm just setting you up, Chocolate. You're going to have a lot more to comment on. So when you hear the anti-flat earthers actually say that, you say, oh, okay, well, I'm going to validate what you want me to just take your word for. So I'll go download 4 or 5 sextant manuals in PDF format and just read the whole thing. You walk away after that when you do your own homework and check everybody, including me and Nathan and Chocolate and anybody else who wants to say anything. Find out for yourself by reading it. And you find out exactly what it says. You aim it at the horizon and you need a 90. The minute they say 90, it's over because you cannot have a 90 on a sphere surface. Not when the star's GP is 3,000 miles away or 4,000 miles away. That means that radii from that GP to you has to be at that flat baseline adjacent because it's a right angle triangle that gives it to you. So the minute the ballers say minus from 90, they're no longer on the ball.
Tenth, if I can just comment on that. I was
Yeah.
talking to a baller last night where he was saying all you need is 2 horizontals at different altitudes. Then at your level, you can calculate your angle. And then if at the GP, it's at a higher elevation, it can still be at a 90 degree as long as you're working with 2 horizontal lines.
I would agree with the horizontal lines, except a sphere doesn't have any.
And a circle of equal altitude means you have to be on that same level of equal altitude.
Yes.
Yeah, so welcome to Flat Earth.
So here's the deal. It's going to come out. It's going to be my next show with Mitchell from Australia. By the way, go sub to his channel, doing great work. The bubble sextant uses a bubble. So what does a spirit level tell us? The guy that just spoke, why don't you tell me what spirit level tells us?
That liquids will always determine a level, sort of the bubble is the least dense, and therefore it's going to want to rise to the highest point. And then that highest point, when placed level, will be centered on that spirit level.
Perfect. All right. So you're up in the plane. Planes were new to us in the 1900s, but celestial navigation and ships have had a few hundred years, and they've been using the stars to navigate. And so the pilots needed something like that outfitted for the airplane that was working on the ships. So what happens when you're above the clouds and you can't see the horizon? How do you do it? So what they came up with was clever. Let's just match the Earth's surface with a spirit level, and we'll ask the pilot to fly level, and we'll ask the navigator to center the bubble with the sun image on that instead of the horizon. And then he'll take a series of marks over 2 minutes and get the average, and he'll know how to use the air almanac. Is really the nautical almanac, but in lesser stars to work with. The nautical almanac is almost 200 stars you can use for navigation when you're on the ocean or land, whereas the air almanac is 64 total. And now the mariners like the air almanac because it's condensed, lesser volumes, it's much nicer. So everyone's pretty much using the air almanac now because you don't need more than 64 stars to navigate because you're going to find a few of them anyway. But anyway, back to my point. You're on an airplane 15, 30,000 feet above the earth. You can't see the horizon. How do you do what the mariners do on the ocean up at 30,000 feet? You have to mirror what they have. What do they have? A flat baseline. So you put spirit level into a sextant, you create that flat baseline, then you bring the sun into that center of that bubble and then say mark. Much like the sailor does when he brings the sun to the edge of the horizon, rocks it until he gets a true vertical. And they go through the next process is all the same. And no dip correction is necessary for the aviator at 30,000 feet. But it is necessary, let the penny drop here, please. It is necessary if you're on Earth, with the natural horizon, because you got to get to level. Because on the boat, it's hard to hold the bubble steady. And the most secure thing you can shoot at that's steady is the horizon. And so but you got to get down to sea level to make sure that it's acting like the bubble at 30,000 feet. So the bubble at 30,000 feet is really the ocean level when you bring dip correction and get your eyeball on the surface. They're both saying, there's your two horizontals. It's all a horizontal.
It's all flat. Anthony, we're on the scientific evidence of gravity tip, and you've got physics just made the smallest gravitational field up for the last 5 minutes. So what gives?
So this is going to be in the context of why peer review is useless. It addresses in the short term scientific evidence for gravity, but the bigger picture for those on our side that get presented this need to be aware that this is why peer review is a joke. So this lady, Michelle Starr, has written an article in this sciencealert.com. Now, it doesn't seem credible on the face of it. It looks like it's popular science, but she leaves a link to her name so you can see who she is. And it says that she's a senior journalist at Science Alert. Her deep love and curiosity for the cosmos has made the publication a world leader in reporting developments in space research. So straight away, you can tell that this is nonsense, right? It's woo-woo stuff. It's obviously biased by this lady who believes in, well, let's look at some of her other articles. Supermassive black holes, ghost particles, all this is pseudoscience. None of this is real world, right? But she's a cosmologist, so that gives her free reign to write any old nonsense. So take this with a pinch of salt, but be aware that it exists. This is a reboot of Cavendish experiment. On the face of it, it supports Blue Marble Science's Cavendish reboot as well, because they're claiming that with a little tiny piece of gold, they were able to attract this little piece of gold, because mass attracts mass. Now, obviously, this is in direct conflict with Einstein, who says that mass does not attract mass. What Einstein says is that one of these masses and the other one of these masses creates a gravity well, and they both fall into it, not with the force of attraction, but with a gravity well. However, the scale involved with Einstein is on the galactic scale. It's not on a piece of little gold on the end of a pin in a lab. So this is, whatever this is nonsense. But the point I wanted everyone to be aware of is this was written in 2021, right? So it's bang up to date. So it's as if they're watching us and somebody's gone out and put their name to it. But what's really interesting in this this video, this thing, I'm going to read a couple of paragraphs. It's done in a vacuum. Now, get this right. Listen to how this is written, right? Bear in mind that it uses the word supersedes. That's the word that we use, and we get. It's not a coincidence that she's used supersedes in this, in my opinion. But listen to what she says. She says, there's a big problem. There's a big problem with the mathematics we use to describe in the universe. In particular, the way gravity behaves. Unlike the other three fundamental forces in the universe, weak, strong, and electromagnetic, gravity can't be described with the standard model of physics. So that throws F equals ma and all this apparent forces nonsense that Craig McNeil talks about into the bin. Anyway, Einstein's theory of general relativity is the model that we use to describe and predict gravitational interactions, and it works beautifully in most contexts. However, when we get down to quantum scales, general relativity breaks down, which is exactly what they're doing with this test here, because it's not necessarily quantum, but it's knocking on the doors of quantum because we're getting to tiny amounts here, right? And quantum mechanics takes over. Reconciling the two models so far has proven very difficult. General relativity supersedes an earlier model, shout out to Craig and Musa, Newton's law of universal gravitation, which hadn't incorporated the curvature of spacetime. It states that gravitational attraction between two objects is directly proportional to the product of their masses and inversely proportional to the square of the distances between their centers. Newtonian physics works well for most terrestrial applications, even if it stumbles a little in astrophysical settings. This goes on and on and on. The bottom line I want you all to be aware of is this, on the face of it, supports blue marble science, but it directly conflicts with Einsteinian. So where's peer review now? Because somebody in their realm of science over pseudoscience that they claim that they self-moderate themselves. Where's the peer review people calling out this Michelle Starr? Because unless she's claiming that she's debunked Einstein but by demonstrating that mass does attract mass when he says it doesn't, then peer reviews obviously failed in this instance, because peer review's supposed to call this stuff out and it's supposed to be credible, isn't it? So don't be fooled by this article.
Okay, thank you. So what's her independent variable?
Same old nonsense. Same old nonsense.
Does it say? Can you do a quick search to see if you can find it?
Well, what I've done is I've emailed the author of this article, because if you go down to the bottom here, it says this article has been published in Nature, and then when you go to the Nature, we've got Tobias Westphal, who appears here, and he's left his email address there. So I've sent an email to him saying, basically, could you confirm your independent variable? I haven't had a response to it yet. It's only been today, but here's a copy of the email that I sent to him. It says, "Hi, my name is Tony. I've read your published article in Nature regarding the gold torsion bar test. Could you please help me understand? Did you comply with scientific method when you did your test? What exactly was your independent variable in your test?" So I've signed it off and I've put my qualifications there, Ranty. But I'm not expecting to get a reply because I think he'll think that I'm a troll. But I just want people to be aware this article exists and be ready for the ball earthers when they start citing it in support of blue marble science, because peer reviews had a day off.
Oh, perfect. You're way ahead of me. So, yeah. Slick. Very slick, Anthony. I love it. I've got nothing to add.
I just want to comment.
Anthony's just took the words out of my mouth. That's epic. I like to be impressed, and I am.
It's
peer reviews
interesting
had a day
how
off.
they use the word stumbled. They're like, they're stumbling in terms of their theories, not quite 100% accurate. It's just kind of stumbling a little bit, but if it's wrong, it's wrong. It's not just stumbling.
Yeah, the point that we want to rely on is not whether or not mass attracts mass. The point that we need to rely on is where's peer review in this? Because if she's trying to claim that mass does attract mass because that debunks Einstein, then she needs a Nobel Prize, doesn't she? Because he got one for discovering space relativity and all that nonsense, right? So she must deserve one. So let's ask her to go and claim her Nobel Prize. Because I'm due about 50 according to the trolls.
Yeah, and subsequently gravitational fields and gravity waves have been also proven on Einstein's 100th year anniversary of him saying there would be gravitational waves. So there's
he predicted it 100 years ago. That opened the doorway to such things called space exploration and billions of dollar investments from the governments for exploring all this nonsense called woo-woo. It's nonsense. He's predicted it. It's bound to come around. It's the tip of the cap to Einstein, that bang on 100 years after his death. After his publication of
sorry, for the record, Einstein did not win a Nobel Prize for gravity or anything like that. He won it for the photoelectric effect.
For the photoelectric effect, and he won it for the what was the other one? The photoelectric effect and something else. But you're right, he didn't. But nonetheless, I'm still owed 50 of them by Ball Earth trolls, and I'm claiming those 50.
He what? Nobel Prizes?
Yeah, he got a Nobel Prize for the photoelectric effect, and he got a Nobel Prize for, what was the other one? I can't remember what the other one was now.
Everything he did wasn't wrong, right? I mean, he'd done dumb stuff, didn't he?
Oh yeah, his photoelectric effect is right, but it's
He only won
theory of
one.
general relativity. If
Einstein
it's
did
as
not
wonderful
win
as it
2 Nobel
claims,
Prizes, only for the photoelectric effect.
no, he got another one, didn't he? He got 2.
He did not. I just looked it up. He only won 1 prize, 1 Nobel Prize. He might have got some other prizes for other stuff,
Yeah,
but
I'm pretty
only
sure
1 Nobel Prize.
Yeah, he got a silver
So
swimming
he came in
certificate.
second.
Nobody in his field uses the scientific method, guys. It's leaps of logic. It's leaps of logic. It's guesswork.
Does any baller in Discord? Any baller in Discord want to comment on the claim that there's gravitational attraction and a claim of debunking Einstein's? Anybody want to comment on that?
Just looking up Einstein now, it says that he posted both that theory of relativity and the photoelectric effect in the same year, 1905, and that there was a bit of jockeying within the Nobel Committee to ensure that he won the prize at all.
The special relativity was 1905. General relativity was 1950.
Okay, with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you. Smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, smashed the PayPal link, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on a premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Hello?
Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Hello?
Hello? I could do this
Hi.
all day.
Marco.
We also have a new guy from yesterday, One Deck. He might be new to Discord because he was hot micing yesterday. So he might have something he might want to share if he wants to say hello.
Welcome,
Hopefully.
new guy.
We'll see. No, we're not live. Who was the guy saying hello? Was it Infinite Arts Pete? Don't be shy.
I think it was my wife's boyfriend.
Oh, okay. We can't hear you, by the way, Infinite Arts Pete. Your mic opened. We didn't hear anything, just so you know.
Righteous, why don't you put one deck on deck?
Oh, I gave him a welcome.
Okay.
Might just be very shy.
Well, he was trying to get in on the action yesterday, but it looked like he was having trouble. And then we kind of disconnected him because...
Oh, hold on.
Oh.
Go ahead, Pete.
Mic problems. I've got it sorted now.
Happy days. Well, nice to make your acquaintance.
Cheers, guys.
You like my,
welcome to the show, buddy.
Indeed. Did you like my shout out, Anthony? Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, the one that was sitting there smug.
Yeah, indeed. I don't often look at Skype, but when I do and I see things like that, it does make me chuckle.
Yeah. Well, it's good because like he still pushes that gravity is like what does he call it? A consequential effect or something like that. And it's like, no, dickhead, it's called an effect, right? It's the end of the chain of causation. It's not something in the middle. It doesn't cause new forces. He's just redefining terms because he knows that he doesn't want to call it an effect because it debunks his model. Complete and utter idiot. How many thumbs up did you get then, Nathan?
Don't know.
By the way, I normally do the thumbs up just because sometimes it gets a bit like dry at the end if there's nobody in. But I do normally do the.
I can barely keep on top of you guys. Just to answer you, I don't know. I haven't got enough real estate. I still haven't got my projector back, so I don't know. I still can't get over that the guy lied to us yesterday. Go on, Solar.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask 10th earlier when he was talking about that aeroplane where you can use a horizontal up in the sky and then you no longer need dip angle correction. Then you're forming a new circle of equal altitude at that altitude, correct? You're not breaking this thing up into two so that someone on the ground is still measuring an angle and then you're using that elevation height of the plane to form your 90 degree below the GP.
You there, 10th?
Does that make sense?
It does make perfect sense. And you're right, you're drawing a parallel with what you would have on the ground because you've got a bubble. You've established a horizontal baseline. The fact that it's in the air is neither in or there. It still works in exactly the same way. You still measure the angle to the star. You still do it in the exact same way. The only bit that you don't need to do at that point, same goes with an artificial horizon, is you don't need to do dip correction.
The reason I'm asking this is that the baller was defending himself saying that because we can use any altitude and then its line of sight means that you're getting over that inconvenient truth of the flat horizontal on sea level. So if you gained an altitude of 30,000 feet and now you're using your line of sight as your horizontal, then you've effectively taken away this definitive evidence.
Sorry, line of sight as a horizontal. So the argument dies there.
They don't have a
but a
horizontal
line of sight could go
sight.
over a ball.
They don't have a horizontal line
Hold on.
of sight, though,
Everyone wants to
because,
tell you why. One person, please. Whoever, just tell him why.
They don't have a horizontal line of sight because of, according to them, refraction bends horizontal lines. Remember?
Go and finish your question. Good answer there, Eli. That's one of the good answers. And then I'll pipe in when he. Just restate your question again of what the guy you think he's saying.
So the Glober was saying if he stands on the ground and he's above ground level and then he uses eyesight as his horizontal, then he's clearing the curvature of the earth so he can see further and then using that eye line as his level.
Let's stop right there. Stop.
Well, let me just finish the point.
No. I don't want you to finish. I want to break this down little by little, but you will finish. I promise you will be able to finish. The Glober, we just need more details in this. So he's saying, and interrupt me if I'm wrong. He's saying when he's standing up, holding a sextant, all he needs is a horizontal. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. What is he aiming the horizon mirror at when he does this?
The horizon, but I'm not confused about ground level.
Stop. Just one answer. We'll have plenty of time just for the audience sake. So he's standing up. Let's call him 6 foot tall. He's 6 foot tall. He's aiming at the horizon. Is he parallel as he would be if his eyeball was on the ground, equal to the 0 baseline of the horizon? Would that be horizontal in the right way, or is he 6 feet above that and needs a dip correction to get to that?
At ground level, he needs the dip angle correction.
Thank you. So now let's do this imagery in everyone's mind with him 6 foot tall, and he buys the attachment, the bubble attachment, and outfits it on his Mariner sextant. It's not the bubble sextant for airplanes, but he could actually do that if he's on land. He could use a bubble sextant on land because it's stable. But let's say he buys the attachment and puts a bubble feature on his normal sextant. He now doesn't aim at the horizon. He just makes sure the bubble is level, and he's got the same thing. So what's he saying?
So what we were trying to do is trying to explain to him that the dip angle correction, taking it back down to ground level, is where his ball model dies, because after 1.22 miles, there should be curvature, and then it's not a level anymore. What you were saying earlier about the plane being at an altitude and then just selecting a new horizontal from which we're going to work as the baseline. His argument was that you can have the observer on ground level and a horizontal at a different altitude that's still achieving a 90 degree. And thereby, in the mathematics, you can still calculate the observer's angle, the 90 degree, and they don't need to be on the circle of equal elevation. It could be sort of at the equator and then at 60 degrees north. And at 60 degrees north, you can have a base that's generating a horizontal that's giving you a 90. And then at the ground level, you're getting your angle. But you can't split the horizontal. A triangle isn't 4 sides, it's 3. And that horizontal needs to be flat.
Okay, it was hard to take notes. You were going so fast. Let's just go back to the beginning things he said. He's basically admitting it's a flat Earth measurement because he needs that horizontal. Whether you do it using a spirit level at 30,000 feet, or if you use a bubble sextant and have a horizontal with your eye line to match the bubble, and you bring the sun to the bubble or the star, or you actually use the... See, this is the thing you got to figure out here. Why is dip correction only required for the actual horizon and not for the other ways? Because the other ways, you don't need dip because you've already established horizontal. So you do dip on the water to get to horizontal because you're on top of a sailboat, maybe 10 feet high, let's say, and then your height above that. So let's say 16 feet you're going to minus off of a good-sized sailboat to get to horizontal. But if you have a bubble section, you're already at horizontal, so you don't take dip correction, which means you're saying the Earth is flat. It's over right there. I don't know what he's talking about, circle of equal altitude. The circle of equal altitude is from the co-altitude. So if you shoot a star, like this image, is this still up on the thing, on the screen, Nathan? Unless he went away. All right, so anyway, so if I'm assuming the image is up, or I'll just give you a new image to think about. Let's say you shoot a star and it's 50 degrees above the horizon. Well, that's the altitude. That's how high it is in elevation above a flat plane. Now you got to minus that from your 90. Okay, so your 90 is what's directly above you. So you're perpendicular to this. You are the vertex in this situation, and you got a 50-degree angle. Okay, but now you also have a 90, not just the sun, but you have a 90 on this plane. Now, what's the co-altitude? The co-altitude is the difference of 50 and 90. That's 40. That 40 is what you convert into zenith distance. The circle of equal altitude is that difference in angular measurement, in degrees, in nautical miles. It's that difference. Circle of equal altitude is the zenith distance, which is acquired by the co-altitude, the difference of 50 and 90, 40. 40 times 60 nautical miles is 2,400 miles. Now you draw your circle of equal altitude because that gave it to you. The co-altitude gave it to you. The map is the sky. The stars makes the map. The stars give us the GP on this flat plane. And it's a co-altitude that is converted into nautical miles that draws your circle of equal altitude on the plane. PLANE that we live on.
That GP of the star, what degree angle does that give you when it reaches the flat plane underneath it? What degree is that?
Well, are you saying when I bring it down with the mirror to line it up with the horizon?
No, the degree
90.
from the flat.
Oh,
90.
Yeah, there you go.
90, yeah. Yeah, so to get that 90, sorry there, Chocolate, to get that 90, you
No,
have,
you're good.
no, I'm glad you brought it up. So to get that 90 and to place that GP, you have to do it with the co-altitude. So that's the 40 left over from your 90. And that is now an inverted right angle triangle. So it's, you're in a box, basically. So the whole point is that it converts into nautical miles perfectly. And that's how you get your circle of equal altitude and your GP. That's how you know where it is.
I agree, and well explained. The thing for me was, if you are at a different altitude that is not sea level, like you explained using the bubble level, then effectively you've created your 90-degree triangle off of the circle. So when we normally draw like the sphere and then we draw a tangent just touching
When you
one
say
point
off
of
of
the
the
sphere,
circle, what do you mean? You just created a horizontal, but when you say off of the circle, what do you mean? What are you trying to say there?
of the assumed curvature. So when you draw the
What
globe
assumed
curvature,
Wait a minute. What? No. See, you gotta make a transition. When you say circle, was that circle of equal altitude? But now you're saying it's circle of an assumed curvature. What curvature? You're getting a horizontal. There is no curvature.
so what the point that I'm trying to say is that if you create a horizontal off of ground level, and that's an adequate horizontal, you've removed the ground shape from your measurement.
It's just horizontal, yes.
So like Chocolate said, but when you bring the GP back down to the earth, so if you do dip correction back down to the earth, it's devastating because you need the 90-degree on the earth horizontal. But if you're creating a horizontal at 20 or 30,000 feet above the earth, you can get a GP just floating in midair as long as your horizontal was horizontal.
No, it's not floating in midair. You're matching what's below you to get it. You're just saying the earth is flat by doing a spirit level because you don't need dip correction. Look, I can do it on the ocean. If I'm on the ocean, no, I can do it by the seashore.
Hold on, Tenth. Can I have a bash at answering him?
Yeah, go ahead.
What you're saying is the baller's position is curved surface on the ground, and then when you raise up to 30,000 feet, you can draw out a flat 2D circle, and it doesn't matter because you're not dealing with the ground below, and it still works out fine. Therefore, the ground below can still be assumed to be spherical. That's what he's been given as an argument. His question is
correct.
When you draw out a circle of equal altitude, literally at 30,000 feet, what you're actually doing is, as he's suggesting, drawing out a circle in midair. And what Tenth is replying with is, well, no, you're matching it parallel to the flat surface below. The way I can... Hold on, I'm going to further the explanation you've already had. If you imagine that the GP for the start, whatever it may be in terms of how we're calculating it right now, is a plumb line dangled down from the star. So it's a straight line that meets at 90 degrees to the surface. Well, if it meets at 90 degrees to the surface, it also meets at 90 degrees to the flat plane that you've drawn out at 30,000 feet elevation. The two run parallel. So it still works exactly the same, you just don't have to actually do any dip correction, because you've already established a perfect horizontal plane in midair that parallels what's happening on the ground. And because you've got a plumb line dangling down from the star, it doesn't matter if you move along the ground to get to that 90 when you reach that star, so if you then have the star at your zenith, or if you intersected it halfway up the plumb line, you're still intersecting it at 90 degrees regardless, and you can only achieve that effect if it's a parallel line that you're deriving from 30,000 feet to match with the GP on the ground. So the fact that if you carry along parallel with the ground, exactly that elevation, 30,000 feet in this example, when you get above the star's GP, that would be to say above its ground position, it's still above you at 30,000 feet. So it works no different because the Earth is flat and because the circle of equal elevation is exactly that at 30,000 feet and parallels the ground below. Make sense?
Perfect. Crystal clear.
Any spherical believers that have a contradiction to that? Anywhere, maybe?
If I may, since this discussion's been drawing on for a while, but every time I hear circle of equal altitude, the thing that pops up in my mind is immediately a ring stuck on a globe and the observer is in the middle, like higher than the actual circle, right? Because that circle could be perfectly parallel to another circle above it and like sit around the globe. But that's probably not what you guys were intending to say.
No, the circle of equal altitude is that
this.
the GP of the star or sun is in the middle, not you. You're on the circle on the somewhere on the line of position on that circle is what we're trying to find out, because it's giving you the radius, straight line distance from the sun's GP from the circle to the outer edge.
I don't know about you guys. I'm just chilling in the center of the Earth. All that flat horizon stuff.
With what Arwin just showed there, Arwin, requires a bent R, doesn't it? For your circle of equal altitude.
bend the R.
And when you put that little crown on the ball, you see there, that's what it does. Yeah, because that's creating. Look, where's the radius? It goes from the top of the ball down to the edge. If that's the maths you're going to do, that's the joke. That is your bendy R, isn't it, for your circle of equal altitude? And that's the proof that it is flat. Because once we've worked in the sky with the curves, the way back to find out where we are is across a straight surface with 90 degrees, not with a bendy R, a bendy adjacent in this case.
If you dropped a piece of paper, I was just going to say, Arwin, if you dropped a piece of paper, let's just put Arwin presented again. If you dropped a piece of paper on top of the toilet roll or whatever it is that's round in a circle, and then drew a circle around that piece of paper, that would be a flat 2D circle. So when the original point from Rams came up, they're saying, well, that circle can be and is a flat area of equal altitude. And it doesn't matter that underneath that bends. But that's where Brian steps in and says, well, no, if you then slice off this circle along, keep it still just for a second, Arwin, if you can show us it vertical. There we go. If you slice off where Arwin's paper meets the circle, so then you've got a flat area of equal elevation with a sphere, but with the top of it sliced off, then it would be parallel. But it isn't if it's spherical. Therefore, what Adam's describing is the arc over the top versus the dissection if you cut off the top of it to meet along this line that Arwin's got along the bottom of it. So therefore you've got a bent radius, because the radius would be from the outside point of the circle to the midpoint two-dimensionally. Whereas if you've got a curve, then you've got a bent radius. No such thing exists.
All right. I'm going to stop.
What is that brown ball of stuff? Do you keep dung beetles or something? What is it?
It's a meteorite. It's coming. Ooh, it's coming for you. Ooh.
That is Lance Armstrong's right testicle.
It's petrified. No, it's petrified wood. No, it's not. It's just like manganese. So there's like this goldy stuff inside there, and it is kind of acidic apparently. But this is just a mineral type, and it just looked so much like a perfect meteor. I just thought it was amazing. It's like, this is what I imagine going through space. Look at that. Ooh, like this is where Han Solo landed, guys. Remember that?
I think there's a big worm in there. Giant space worm. Enough fantasy.
Nathan, if you can go back to the slide prior to the airplane one with the bubble showing the horizontal on the surface and the horizontal at the presupposed center.
I got it. It's up.
Okay. So the GP of this star, you can see the arrow showing it's coming from right to left on your screen, is going to hit somewhere on Earth. And when they hit somewhere on Earth, that's the GP, the ground position or geographical position, where it's directly overhead. It's so the zenith position of that star. They have to take it to the center, where Eli reminded everybody, where they cut a great circle and it's flat. And only at the center can you make this 90 work of this circle, this two-dimensional circle they got here that they're trying to say is three-dimensional. So the whole point is, it's being done on top on a plane, the Earth we live on. And then they're saying, where on this sphere model of ours can we prove a 90? We can't do it on the surface where we get it with the sextant, because we can't get it from the sextant on a curved surface. So we have to say a couple of things. We have to imagine it's coming from the center, where nobody is at taking any measurement, but we have to imagine that. And so that we can have the two lines meet to create a 90. So where are the two lines? The zenith position of the guy on the boat there on top, all the way to the center, and then the equator, the zero line, the midway point of a sphere. And so there you got a 90 in your imagination, and they got the sailboat in the center, as you can see here. But the sailboat's never at the center. The sailboat's on top of a curved surface on an ocean that's supposed to be curving away on their model. But it can't work that way with a sextant because you need a flat adjacent. So they have to imagine this. Then the second problem they got is light has to come in parallel. Well, we know light is divergent. As Adam has said, the sun's photons are going in all directions because the sun is a circular object. And so if it's going in all directions, it's going to keep spreading out. Oh, but it's so far away, they say, that by the time it hits Earth, it's coming in straight. Well, then there should be proof of this. But there is none. There's actually opposite proof, because we see divergent rays all the time from the sun.
And even to bash that distance argument, we've got the inverse square law of light, which means as it covers more distance, that light expands to cover a larger footprint. So even if they were to claim that we're at such a distance that these rays are now parallel, the natural property of light is the inverse squaring, whereby it diverges outward to cover a greater surface area than its source point.
So then what you're saying, let me throw something at you. They're saying it's as if only one ray from a far, far away is hitting the globe Earth. So it's parallel because we're only getting one ray spread out. We're not getting a second ray to compare it to. So what happens when we have an eclipse? Is that one ray blocking the whole Earth?
Yeah, then the model needs the light to converge and, produce umbra and penumbra.
Which would be an inverse square rooting of light, whereby it would cover a smaller surface area with distance, which has never been demonstrated.
Well, which one is it? Is it the first one they need for their model? Or is it the second one that actually destroys their model?
Well, it's both. It's circumstance dependent when you're talking about models because they don't directly relate to actual reality. So if you're talking about, as you asked, the eclipse, then, light's not going to be coming in parallel. It's going to be converging. Whereas
Have you guys seen the divergent light in diffuse light? So, like, I've seen it done with us in a small model where the eclipse is just a small sphere, and then because the light is diffuse, like if you can't have a direct light, but you have to have it being diffused, and so the air would kind of be that diffuser causing the convergent light.
Then how would you ever get a GP of the sun directly
right,
overhead?
exactly. So if you take and accept that to be the case, so you can't use this light and assume it's parallel then?
Right. How would it create an umbra and penumbra with parallel light? I'd like to see a demonstration
Exactly.
of that.
Yeah. Okay, we'll accept
the
that at
fundamental
face value
law
until you need it
Well,
parallel.
I think light is so it goes beyond all of our models because we do see sometimes that it is convergent like that. You can model it yourself if you use diffuse light. You can't use a point light. We also see the divergent light, as you guys are talking about with the sun. So it's just, it goes beyond our understanding of just one simple model.
Absolutely.
Light is very.
But
I so agree with you, and yet in the heliocentric side, they've given it a speed. They've given it two-directional speed, but not a one-directional speed. They've got all sorts of crap associated with what light's doing in the heliocentric model.
But Nathan, my point was that the inverse square law of light means that as light travels, it goes outward. It always occupies a larger. It starts at 1 square meter and then becomes 4 square meters of illumination. It's a law of light that as light travels, it diverges, which means you cannot ever achieve a parallel light beam because with distance, it will square the surface area that it now encounters or illuminates.
By that standard, we should never, ever see a pinpoint light for any star ever. Should just be a wash of light then.
That's the crazy thing about dark matter. How if there's so many lights out in the heavens, and according to the model, there's just uncountable lights, how is there darkness in between those lights?
So your question, Nathan, basically, if you're standing on the Earth looking upward, only your eyes are receiving the photons, but the light is scattered over the entire surface. But only where you are observing from can you then see that almost origin point or source location. And that's what you're seeing as a pinpoint.
I see.
If you zoom in on that same frame, on that same field of view with a telescope, you can find there's more stars. You can pick up more stars. And so I think it's because of the inverse square law that some of those stars, the light is not as bright. But
Whoa. Hold on. As soon as you say that, then you're ascribing distances to them and implying that you can apply the inverse square law to their distance based on how much they're going to diminish in light, etc., etc. Hold on, you've got to make claims about what they are to apply that.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was just going to say, because after that, my first question is going to be like, oh, okay, what's a star?
Precisely.
Well, you can see a point source if you're looking at the point of entry, if it's being projected from elsewhere.
Point of entry? What?
Hypothetically, if you had light being shown from another side of a reflective surface and you're on the other side, you would see that as a point, right? And it could still illuminate the area where you are.
Don't think I follow. Other side of a reflected surface. What do you mean by that?
I think he
Like
means like if you were in a dark
plexiglass.
room and you made pinprick holes in a dark room, then the light that's coming through those pinprick holes from you would see a pinprick, like a point source.
Okay, like a
But there
light
could be
behind
a
a
lot of
keyhole.
light from exterior.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought he meant. So like a light from behind a keyhole. You got a light in a room, shut the door, you're in the darkened hallway and you can still see light from the keyhole, right?
Which will expand according to the inverse square law of light. So it will illuminate a larger and larger surface as it travels with distance.
That's not inverse square law of light. That's diffusion. That's light diffusion, or Sagnac refraction. But it's not. It's not the inverse square. That's to do with the intensity of the light getting less as a function of distance.
Correct.
That is the inverse square.
Yeah, but you said it would expand
as it
because
covers
of the inverse
distance.
square.
So the inverse square basically says with distance, there's a squaring function of that it's halving in intent or quartering in intensity with each distance traveled, because it's covering 4 times greater surface area than where it started. So it's still the same intensity from source, but because now it's scattered over 4 times the amount of surface area, it's 25% of the intensity of that light.
It's qualifying the dispersion with the inverse square law. It's perfectly reasonable, Anthony. Now he's giving clarity.
Go.
My comment
Tony.
earlier about the convergence of shadows or light really is kind of going against this argument that the heliocentric model cannot have a small eclipse of the moon or of the sun. So some flat earthers will argue that there can't be a small shadow on the earth from a large moon. But because of diffused light, then I believe that this actually can make a smaller shadow as a property of the light converging.
Yeah, but how
So
comes
when
when it happens on the Earth
hang on,
from a lunar eclipse? How comes, or when the Earth casts a shadow on the Moon, how comes the Earth's shadow isn't smaller as well?
I'm not arguing for
he's
the
not arguing
heliocentric
that,
model.
and it's only heliocentrists that would claim it was a shadow at all.
But you're talking about diffusion of light. We're talking about a shadow being cast.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I was going to say we're getting way off the beaten track here.
The light and how light will disperse is very different to how a shadow is said to become convergent.
what? No. A shadow is the light and its pathways except being blocked. So that's not true. Light
One
follows
is
the
an
path it does, and
increasing of
it's just a
light.
shadow where it's blotted out. That's all.
Listen, Arwen, listen. He was saying diffused light causes a convergence of light, meaning a growing of the shadow. What we observe is a shrinking of the shadow, which is a growing of the light. So it's antithetical. You can't compare a shadow shrinking to a point source, because that's the light. The amount of light has grown to make the shadow converge, but that when light is converging, the shadow is enlarging.
Right.
Oh, thank you. That's helpful. So
Well,
the
it's like
diffusion
describing.
of light in the air is causing the light to actually increase in that region.
But that's the opposite of what you just said. You
Yeah.
said diffusion caused a convergence of light.
So you've got the shadow
Okay,
being
well-
described like it's got a magnifying glass working on it, when it should be the other way
Yeah.
around.
Okay, thank you.
Or like going through a slit. It just splits up. So it's kind of diffraction, even though it's going past something on one side, not in between a slit. So it is kind of diffraction effect then. Right? Looking through a keyhole.
Sorry, I got 2 seconds. I meant like a culminated light source through glass or something like that.
Okay.
I thought we were talking about the moon shadow and all that.
We were.
Supposed moon shadow.
But I'd asked him to clarify a particular position, and then we, without getting clarity, moved on with our into the weeds thoughts about this. Yeah, this isn't going anywhere fast, other than pulling apart the nonsense claims of heliocentrism and inverse square law applied, and I don't know if we were going to get onto Tycho Brahe at any stage, but beyond that, I think we've exhausted this topic.
Well, did you say Taco Brahe? Is it Taco Tuesday?
That's a topic. It's the hazelnut chocolate bar.
It's Typo Brahe.
Even better.
Didn't Tycho Brahe have his nose cut off in a duel?
I don't know.
If I can add one more point to the whole shadow thing, is that due to ambient light, we generally see shadows shrinking. If I stand far away from a surface, that shadow will be smaller than if I stand right up against that surface. Why? Because the light, as it travels, diverges, causing a lot of sort of interference over the edge of the shadow. So we as flat earthers shouldn't ask why the shadow seems to converge, because that's actually a natural tendency of light to diverge and cause the shadow to become reduced to a point that when you're at such a distance away from a surface, the light can now almost come from both sides of you. You almost see like a doubling of your shadow, or like two lighter shadows, until eventually your shadow disappears, because how the ambient light has replaced any presence of that darkness.
When I did a little research on this, it was described as different shades of it, much like what you're saying. But you have the solid, and then you have a different shade, and then it gets lighter and lighter, and you're bringing in ambient light to cause that. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because that's probably the only thing that I've ever seen that looks similar to what they describe as a penumbra umbra experience, where you'll have a lightening, and then a portion of the shadow will be totality, so it'll be black, and then you'll have like a little bit of a half shadow on either side. And that's just due to how light wants to diverge. It's almost going around both sides of you and increasing in the surface area that it can cover.
So
But
flat
how
Earth
about
solar,
parallel
this is
light?
describing light in interactions on our realm on the Earth. And then my question also goes up when we look to the heavens. Obviously, we can't interact with those, we can only observe it. Is that light not diverging in the heavens? Because we see point sources of light and we zoom in on that same field of light, and there we find more point sources, but at some point those fade away, and so the whole heavens are not illuminated. There's darkness in between the stars.
Well, it's claimed that the starlight, especially, but also the sun, is just so extremely far away that the only light that ever reaches us has to be parallel. Otherwise, it would have diffused over the astronomical distances, right? And then if you supposedly go there, it's super insanely bright, which is kind of a crazy thing to say, because then it would be lit up everywhere. But it supposedly is. It's all really confusing and convoluted. But the whole mechanical point is that all this light at astronomical distances is supposed to be reaching us in a parallel state. But when we try to emulate things like the eclipse, do you work with like parallel laser-like light? Because yeah, you can't actually take that real distance to make such a test, because that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't fit on Earth. So you have to use another source to cause the light to be parallel. Will it still give the umbra and penumbra effect when you do that? Because those are the conditions that the heliocentric model require.
Yeah, and this is all layered with assumption the moment that you stand and look up. So even why we're discussing the shadow shrinking is because we're told the moon has a diameter of 2,000 miles and then cast a shadow of only 70 miles, indicating it shrunk. But that's starting with an assumption that we know what the diameter of that object or light source is. So we're very limited in terms of our understanding. And the moment we look up, we see that Venus has phases. And then we'll see that some of the moons of Jupiter have phases. And then we see that our moon has phases. And that could be something entirely with that light source, or it could be some other explanation. So it's just not provable. It can't fit into the scientific field.
And with that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, hitting the PayPal link, and all that good stuff. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a day! What a lovely day!